The late Maya Angelou wrote, "Nothing will work unless you do." Such is the case with South Suburban College. Let us recognize the milestones of our incredibly talented faculty and staff who serve the students and the community through lifelong learning. Let's first take a look back to the year 2015. In a landmark decision, the United States Supreme Court ruled 5-4 in favor of same-sex marriage nationwide. After traveling for 9 years, NASA's Horizon spacecraft finished its first flyby of Pluto, taking photos of Pluto and its largest moon. The 2015 Climate Change Summit saw 195 countries endorse the Paris Agreement to limit climate change. The World Bank projected that extreme poverty was likely to fall for the first time to below 10% of the world's population. Almost 30 years since the original Star Wars hit cinemas, the much-anticipated sequel, The Force Awakens, smashed into the box office. Thanks to the following for 5 years of dedication and service. Now let's travel back a decade to the year 2010. The deaths of over 220,000 in an island nation already the poorest in the Western Hemisphere make Haiti's January 12th earthquake the biggest news story of the year. Described as President Obama's top priority during his first year in office, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act took more than a year to craft and pass. A nighttime explosion rocked the Deepwater Horizon oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico on April 20th. 11 men died in the blast. Rescuers evacuated the remaining 115 workers from the rig nearly 50 miles off the coast of southern Louisiana. The April debut of Apple's iPad ushered in a new way of relating to the internet for what would, by year's end, become 7 million users of iPads alone. 33 miners were rescued from a remote mine shaft in Chile after having survived 69 days, 2,300 feet below the Earth's surface. Thanks to the following for 10 years of dedication and service. Next, let's head back 15 years to 2005. Carrie Underwood's debut album, Some Hearts, became the best-selling solo female debut album in country music history, and the best-selling country album of the last 17 years. The case of one severely brain-damaged woman, Terri Schiavo, brought an epic life-or-death battle to the forefront of America's conscience, and to the highest court in the land. Destiny's Child issued a joint statement saying, quote, "After all these wonderful years working together, we realized that now is the time to pursue our personal goals and solo efforts in earnest." Michael Jackson was acquitted on June 14th of all 10 counts in the child molestation case that involved a 13-year-old male cancer survivor. Revenge of the Sith broke several box office records during its opening week and went on to earn over $868 million worldwide, making it the second highest grossing film in the Star Wars franchise at the time. Thanks to the following for 15 years of dedication and service. Now let's travel back 2 decades to the year 2000. The infamous Millennium Bug was expected to cause global chaos, with fears that airplanes would fall out of the sky and missiles would fire by accident, all simply by the hypothetical resetting of dates. Coldplay's first album, Parachutes, paved the way for an entire scene of introspective singer-songwriters with rousing guitars and tinkering pianos. In 2000 alone, Nintendo sold its 100 millionth Game Boy, the console that got everyone hooked on collecting all the Pokémon, while Sony launched the PlayStation 2, soon to become a firm favorite among hardcore and casual gamers alike. Big Brother was brasher, bolder, and aimed at a younger audience than Castaway, and hosted the following decade's biggest TV talking points. Before the 2000s, mobile technology mostly consisted of phone calls and SMS messages, but then came a flurry of game-changing phones that dominated the era. Thanks to the following for 20 years of dedication and service. Now let's go back a quarter century to the year 1995. After much wrangling between Bob Dole and Bill Clinton, then Republican senator leader and president respectively, the U.S. agreed to sign the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade Treaty. In an attack on a government building in Oklahoma City, 168 people were killed, including more than a dozen children at a daycare center at the site, and many more were injured. After 8 seasons, the world bid bye-bye to Danny Tanner and his 3 kids and various hangers-on of the hit comedy Full House. Christopher Reeve, who played Superman on film, was thrown from his horse and broke 2 vertebrae in his neck. Pixar's first feature film, Toy Story, was the first ever full-length, entirely CGI movie to hit movie theaters. Thanks to the following for 25 years of dedication and service. Now let's travel back 3 decades to the year 1990. Nelson Mandela was released from prison after serving 27 years. Following the poll tax riots, where 340 people were arrested and 113 were injured, Margaret Thatcher was forced to resign as Prime Minister after failing to secure enough support in the second round of the leadership election. Milli Vanilli claimed to be more talented than Bob Dylan, Paul McCartney, and Mick Jagger, but eventually had to give their Grammy back when their lip-syncing scandal was exposed. Pretty Woman saw the highest number of ticket sales in the U.S. ever for a romantic comedy, with Box Office Mojo listing it as the #1 romantic comedy by the highest estimated domestic tickets sold at over $42 million. The reunification of East and West Germany was made official on October 3, 1990, almost 1 year after the fall of the Berlin Wall. Thanks to the following for 30 years of dedication and service. Finally, let's travel back 35 years to 1985. In April of 1985, Coca-Cola introduced New Coke in what many observers declared to be the worst marketing blunder in history. Mikhail Gorbachev became a transformative figure in the USSR as he ushered in new domestic and foreign policy reforms in an attempt to salvage the crumbling communist system. With Nintendo's US release of their breakout game Super Mario Bros., later that year the NES soon caught on in the US and was a popular item distributed throughout stores across the country. The classic film The Color Purple had its premiere on December 16, 1985 in New York City. The film starred Whoopi Goldberg, Oprah Winfrey, Danny Glover, Margaret Avery, and several other notable actors. In May of 1985, legendary basketball player Michael Jordan was given the NBA's Rookie of the Year award during his inaugural season with the Chicago Bulls. Thanks to the following for 35 years of dedication and service. And thanks to everyone who makes South Suburban College work. It is only because of all of you that SSC is able to serve our students and the community through lifelong learning.